By the time I graduated high school, I felt like a loser. I was aimless, and I felt worthless, which is not a really good way to start out your college career feeling that way. But I felt that about myself. I believed it about myself because of the choices that I had made in high school. I made choices in my relationship with my boyfriends. I made choices in not being a very good girl to my girlfriends. But I made all these choices that brought me to a place where even though I love God and I wanted to be close, things kept me from that. My own choices kept me from it. And worst part about it is I didn't believe in the mercy of God. I mean, I believed in it for you. I believe that God would forgive you for your sins, but for me, I'm not sure if he would do that for me. I made some really huge sins, and I know better, you know? Like, I was raised from a good Catholic family. I went to Catholic school. I mean, I should be a little bit better than the average, but I wasn't. And so I began to feed into that idea that Chris was speaking about earlier of what the devil says, how he accuses us. And I kept thinking, oh man, I want to change, but I know that there's going to be people that will make fun of me and tell me it's not worth it, and what are you doing? I mean, you can't really change. And so I just didn't. And I began to journey further away from God in my Catholic faith, and I began to look to the world because the world was telling me that I was okay. I began to validate myself by the world. I validated myself as being a woman about what to look like, to be beautiful, or to be in relationships, or how to act in relationships, everything, even down to my clothes, by what the world told me. So it's no shock that at some point after college, I auditioned for America's Next Top Model, and I made it. I was on the show. After I was on the show, I stayed in New York and modeled and began this lifestyle that was very worldly, to say the least. I mean, I looked to the world for everything. And even though even though I still believed in God, there was no faith, there was no relationship. And the times when I would think about it, and I would want to go back, you know, I would want to like rekindle that relationship, I became scared and nervous, and I began to look at my life and look at all those years behind me and all the choices I made, and I just thought, I don't know if I can do it. And so I didn't. But there came a point in my life. I remember I was in the middle of a fashion photo shoot in New York, and God touched my heart in a profound way that he touched my heart at that moment, and I knew there's no going back. By the grace of God, I knew that I was worth more than what the world tells me, that I'm worth a lot more than what the magazines say that women should be, what the movies say that we should be. And so I began my journey back home to my Catholic faith. And the first step for me to take that step towards Christ was going to confession, right? And so I remember I was very, very scared. I was very nervous. And confession's always a funny thing to me. And it always has been. I always find it very comical when you walk into a church and you see this line of people lined up along the wall, and they're like scared to death. It's like they're up against that wall, like they're taped with their eyes huge and big. And it looks more like a police lineup, right, than someone going in line for confession, except we're all guilty in that line. But confession's always been a funny thing for me. So anyways, but I knew that I needed to go. I had all these years of all this junk that I needed to just give to Christ and ask for forgiveness and receive his mercy. And so I remember going into that confessional and kneeling down, and it had been years since I had been there. But I knelt down at that confessional. Of course, I kneel behind the screen, right? Because thank God for that screen. I mean, you know the person who made that screen is in heaven, right? You're like, Saint Screen Guy, thank you for making that screen. If there's not the screen, I'll hold up the purse, like, Father, can you hear me through the leather, you know? I'm kidding. But so I kneel down. I kneel down in front of the screen, and I can see the priest right there. You can see like the little holes of the screen. You can kind of see a little bit. And he says a few things, and then my first response is, I really don't want to be here. And he was like, well, you don't have to be here. You Catholic. And I'm so defensive. I'm like, I am so Catholic, which totally proves that I am, right? when I'm that defensive. But he just probably looked at me and thought it was a little weird. But I said, you know what? Here's the thing. I just don't know how I can say all the things that I've done. Because I had a lot of secrets. And we are only as sick as our secrets. We are only as sick as our secrets. And I had a lot. And so I had to figure out how was I going to say that. And so I ended up telling the priest exactly that. I said, listen, I don't know how to tell you all the things that I've done. I don't know how to tell you all the horrible things that I've done to myself and others. It's disgusting. It's embarrassing. He was so good. He ended up just saying, okay, listen, why don't you try this? Why don't you just say the worst thing you got first? The worst thing you got first. And I thought, oh, this is a good idea. This is novel to me because I had normally was one of those Catholics that decided to save the very biggest thing to the very end, like sweep it underneath the rug, you know, right? So like in my confessions, I'd be like, forgive me, Father, for I've sinned. I forgot to use my blinker, and I cursed, and I pinched my sister, and then I killed somebody. So I'm like, what? I'm sorry. You can go back, right? So I thought, okay, say the biggest thing I had first. All right, I think I can do this. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, and I have a few big contenders to figure out what I should do first. And a little time goes by, and of course, you know, as most screens, there's like little holes poked out, and I can see the priest. He gets like really close to that screen, freaks me out. I'm like, whoa, Father, hold on a second. And he just goes, hey, are you still there? And I was, all I did is I just said, well, isn't patience a virtue, right? Which is horrible. I know, horrible. I am the epitome of vice, and I'm telling a priest about virtue. You know it's bad when you're sinning in the confessional. That's when you've reached a new low. That's pretty bad. So at that point, I know he's probably reaching for the exorcist book. At least he should. So he's good and he's patient, and I finally am ready, and I'm like, okay, I think I got it. I think I got my biggest sin that I'm going to give Jesus. He said, okay. And so I said it. I gave it to Christ. And I could see the priest nod. Okay, that's good. Now just give your second biggest sin to Jesus. I said, all right, I think I'm ready, and I gave my second biggest sin. One more time, that priest just leans into the screen. And at this point, he kind of tilts his head sideways, I can tell. And he just goes, okay, so you really should have said the second sin first. And I was like, oh, okay, so should I tell you number 3? I'm a little nervous about how this whole number thing goes. But the point is I gave everything to Christ in that moment. In that confession, I gave everything. I wasn't scared anymore. I wasn't scared of anybody accusing me, even my own self. I gave everything to him. You know, St. John Paul the Great said that love's second name is mercy. Love's second name is mercy. This weekend, visit the sacrament of reconciliation. I champion what Jason just said. Go. And do it now. Do it today. Start out your weekend growing closer to Christ in a state of grace. Start your weekend out this way. Don't let confession be something that you're going to do on Sunday right before you leave, like it's a cherry on a Stubby Sunday. That's not what we should be doing. Start out now. Don't let fear hold you back. Don't let what you think people are going to say about you hold you back, and never let your past dictate your future, ever. You are made for more than what the world is giving you. You are not your sins. St. John Paul the Great said that you are not the sum of your failures. You are the sum of the Father's love for you. God is mercy. God is mercy, and his mercy is waiting for you.